Good evening, Internet. Joseph Wave, welcome along to this evening's Norfolk Developers. I'm Alex, your host. Well, not your host, your committee member, just general bod for this evening. Your host for this evening is Marcus. We will be talking about how he helped his 7-year-old son to automate his math homework and some other tales. It looks like a interesting talk. I'm looking forward to it. But I won't spoil anything further. I'll get out of the way. I am figuring people have still got their Christmas trees up, so I've still got an excuse to basically say Happy New Year to you all. nor.dev/2020 to check out the post. Thanks everybody that helped last year. This is basically the last opportunity I'm going to have to shout out this. So yeah, check it out. As you can see, I haven't installed emojis. I get little black and white emojis for now, apparently. A reminder about Let's Go Build a Bot. Golang for you all from Dom Davis. We've done part 3, although I think we're going to push beyond this month, to be fair. Dom's keen to do February's Wednesday streams, so watch this space. There may also be some more regular stream action as well. But yeah, on the YouTube, subscribe to all of those things. Virtual Social Club, as you all know, Fridays, 5:30 till late. Join us whenever. A big shout out to the user story for sponsoring our Discord. And if you're not on it, where have you been for the last year? nor.dev/Discord, or scan this QR code really, really quickly because it's about to disappear. But a big thank you to the user story. Like I say, they sponsor the engagement prize, the little MeSeek spot over there for the quarterly Pimoroni voucher. So get on it. We might actually beat Dom this month, this quarter, I think. But yeah, maybe not. Quick shout out as well, talking of Discord, I gave a shout out on there, but I just like to relay it to everybody on the YouTubes, etc. Hosted by you, basically. If you've got a talk in mind, a session, you want to come shout about a new framework, new language, whatever it is, drop us a message wherever. You'll find us all over the place. Drop us a message on Twitter, committee, on Discord, email, etc., etc. It'd be great to hear from you. We're also keen for new speakers. Yeah, so yeah. Drop it along. Sponsors, give us a shout. Wear your t-shirt. Be keen. Keep the lights on. A massive shout out to our patrons. And gravitas here, to be honest, for Simon as sliding into our patrons, an hour before we're about to go live. So I have to change the slides. Bravo for that. So gravitas for points, basically, for as close to us going live as you can to sign up as a Patreon. But a welcome to John as well. I think I actually missed him from last week, so apologies, John. But anyway, I'm going to get out of the way because nobody came to listen to me bang on. So let's automate the web and maybe some homework. I'll get out of the way and pass over to Marcus.
All right. Hi, everyone. Let me just share my screen to get started. There we go. You can see that?
Sure can.
Yeah, so this is a first time kind of doing this presentation, and this kind of originated from a tweet that I made the other day about some automation that I was messing around with, and it kind of became quite amusing, so I thought I'd turn it into a presentation, and Alex very kindly invited me along to give a talk at NorDev. So this is called How I Helped My 7-year-old Son to Automate His Math Homework. And we got into a little bit of trouble. So a little bit about me. So I'm Marcus. I'm a founder at a company called Ubio, which is a robotic automation software startup. And we've created a platform called the Automation Cloud, which I'll show you shortly. But kind of very briefly, it's a platform that allows you to build automations using a tool set, an Electron app, basically, that you use to kind of record in a sort of visual programming manner. And then to play back these automations either on a schedule or by some triggers or via an API. So a little bit about me. So I'm a developer. I've been a developer for about 20 years. Most recently, I've been developing mainly in JavaScript. Our platform is written almost probably about 95% JavaScript and TypeScript. I'm particularly interested in kind of how websites work, which probably makes sense since we are automating them, but I'm particularly interested in things like payment security of the websites in general, how they transmit data, how they sort of handle their security and so on. And I think through my work with the automation cloud, we've actually discovered a whole number of different sort of vulnerabilities in various very popular websites, because we really look very closely into how they operate in order to automate them, which is kind of fun. And I kind of got into automation by accident, really. So this wasn't something that I'd done before Ubio. It was really a means to an end. So we originally started as a different company. We were trying to build a universal shopping basket, and we thought that automation, or web automation, would be the means to make that work, because we couldn't possibly hope to integrate with all of these different retailer websites, especially as a tiny little startup that's never heard of us. So we thought the only way to do it would be to automate them. So we kind of went from nothing to building this automation platform, automating these websites, and then eventually we sort of matured, and that really became our core product, which is the automation cloud, which I'll give you a little demo of today. So I'm a parent, and this is my son Leo. He's 7.5, and I don't know if any of you guys have got kids, but it's a bit of a difficult time right now, because obviously with the lockdowns, children are having to homeschool, whether you like it or not. And homeschooling, maybe it works for some kids, but it's pretty tough for Leo. He's much more into playing Minecraft or Minecraft Dungeons or watching Minecraft YouTubers, which is what he wants to do when he gets older, apparently. And he has to do these homeschooling things like any other kids. And his school, which is in Leigh-on-Sea in Essex, uses Microsoft Teams, and this is just an example of what happens every morning. We go in here and we look, see what the schedule is. We print out a bunch of worksheets, and then he does those. And then he's got some online games or puzzles and things that he can do as well. So sometimes he does that, and that probably works a bit better, because they're a bit more like games rather than actual work. And so one of these is this game called Times Tables Rockstars, which some of you might be familiar with. But basically it's just a pretty simple but a nice little online game where you have to answer as many times tables questions as you can against time. And he did this a little bit, but he kind of finds it a little bit difficult with the time pressure. It kind of stresses him out, and so he was really struggling one day. And I thought, in order to encourage him, maybe I'll try to work with him to actually automate this process, since that's what I do. So what we did is I kind of showed him how to do it, and we worked our way through and basically built a very simple bot which plays Times Tables Rockstars. And so here you can see it in action. Let me just play this. And so on the left-hand side, this is our Autopilot app, which is an Electron app that you use to build your automations. And as you can see, it's kind of a WYSIWYG visual programming tool. So you add your little actions and you tell it what to do, and it basically can do Times Tables Rockstars super fast. And in fact, it goes way faster than this. It's significantly slowed down by the screen recording, which is kind of annoying, because it probably goes about 4 or 5 times as fast. But it obviously gets all the answers right, and it will end up getting an incredibly high score on Times Tables Rockstars. And so I'll just skip the video because it's fairly obvious what happens next. This is at kind of full speed. So if you run it without the screen recording working, it can answer a question every 0.27 seconds, and it gets an incredible score, 678 answers, which is kind of ridiculous. And the only reason it's that slow is just because the Times Tables Rockstars app itself is quite a heavy front-end application. Anyway, I didn't really think too much of it. He thought it was hilarious, and ran it a few times and kind of kept asking me to keep running it and so on. So we kind of played it through, and it obviously got really good scores. And we also tried it on the multiplayer mode where you can actually play against other kids, and it obviously totally destroyed them. And what I didn't realize is that all of your times tables rock stars points contribute towards your class total, and you actually have a ranking within your school. And so I found this out a few days later in the school newsletter. And so Leo's class, Puffin 3, got a special mention because they were racing up the leaderboard. And obviously no one knew we were automating this. And as you can see, not only did we race up the leaderboard, but we kind of became top of the leaderboard and beat some of the higher grade classes as well for 3 weeks in a row. And kind of at this point, I realized that, oh my God, my automation is actually beating all of the other kids at school at times tables rock stars. And then it came up in his kind of daily class call that they do each morning at 10:30. And he got a special mention. It was like, Leo is number 3 in the whole school at times tables rock stars. Well done, Leo. So this was kind of quite embarrassing. And then our friends started WhatsApping us and congratulating Leo for doing such a good job. But he hadn't really played it all that much properly himself. But he'd obviously done rather well. So to make matters worse, his teacher is supposed to be calling us tomorrow, and I'm kind of a bit afraid that she's going to bring this up and say what a great job he's doing. But anyway, since then we've stopped automating times tables rock stars because it's getting a little bit out of hand. And obviously it's cheating, but it was just a bit of fun. So as well as this, we thought we'd just try automating a few of the other little games that they get at school. So I can just show you a couple of other examples of things that we can do with the automation cloud. Some games.
Somebody's just asked if you are actually going to admit it to the teacher tomorrow.
I suppose I'm really hoping that she doesn't bring it up. But, yeah.
And how good is it at online poker?
I suspect that's rather more complicated, but that one is worthy of trying. Maybe I'll give that a try next. But they're probably used to bots and maybe have ways to kind of fight back, but that sounds like a challenge. So this is another fun one, which is just a word search, and this definitely doesn't have any kind of class leaderboards or anything like that, so I can automate away. But it basically does a little algorithm, which is essentially a JavaScript function that you can write into the automation, and then it finds all of the words and it completes the word search really quick. And again, it's way quicker than this. It's just the screen recording which slows down the playback. And then here's another example, which is pretty cool. So you can build some quite sophisticated things. In this case, it plays Hangman, but then it uses another website to solve Hangman. So if you just Google Hangman Solver, there's a bunch of websites, and what you do is you enter the number of letters, you enter the ones that you found, and then you enter the knots, which is the letters that are not there, and then it tells you what's the next most likely letter. So you can see it here. What letter should you guess? And it picks that one. So I'll just play this so you can see what happens. And so this opens up 2 websites in 2 tabs that you can see. It then grabs the pattern, which is just 5 dots at the moment, and then it clicks the Hangman button. And this website then, after you submit the form, will tell you what letter you should enter. So A, unsurprisingly, the first one, and then it just keeps doing the same thing. So it switches between the tabs, and then it goes to this website until it gets the answer. And most of the time this works. Obviously, it depends on the quality of the solver, and I didn't put too much effort into finding one, but this seems to work about 80% of the time, which is pretty fun. There we go. So it won. And these are just some fun things to do. Obviously, they don't have any particular business value, but it's a good way to sort of show off what the platform's capable of and what you can do with web automation in general. Obviously, you don't need the automation cloud to do this. You could do it with Puppeteer or whatever. But so these are some other little things that I do myself with the automation cloud. So obviously in lockdown, getting your Waitrose or your Ocado or your Sainsbury's delivery slot is sometimes a bit of a struggle. So automate it. Just logs in to my account. It adds an extremely expensive bottle of wine to the basket to get past the £50 limit, and then it picks the delivery slot that I want. And then later on, I can go back in and edit it and obviously put all of the correct stuff. Other use cases. Sorry, Leo's come to visit. Other use cases, topping up my rail pass. So I used to do that
Daddy,
on a.
after your call.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I can automatically top up my rail pass, and I used to do this when I used to commute into London, but obviously I've stopped that one now. But I live in Essex, and I have to catch the C2C rail. And just like most rail companies, they have an atrocious website which makes absolutely no sense, and you have to kind of go through a maze in order to actually work out how to top up your card. So I have an automation that does that, and it will run every day, check if I've got less than £10 left on my card, and then if I have, it will top it up automatically by entering my security card, the security number for my card. Goal alerts by SMS. So I made a little automation that would check the Premier League scores and send me SMSs. It's not that useful, to be perfectly honest, but and then another kind of fun one, which you can check out afterwards. We've written it up. Is we made a little VS Code extension that automated regex completion. So regex is kind of a fiddly thing, and lots of people forget how to do it. But and so normally what you do is you'll go to Stack Overflow and you'll search for regex for email validation or something like that. So we made a VS Code extension where you can press the command P and then type regex. And then you type in your regex search email. It will send a bot to Stack Overflow, and then it will search for email validation. It will find the first answer. It will find the regex, and it will scrape it, and then it will return it back as a result of your automation, so that it can be dropped into your JavaScript file or whatever you're editing. And it's pretty cool. It takes about 5 seconds, and it's a kind of fun little demo of what's possible with web automation. And so, as you've seen, the automation cloud is really a visual programming tool. So Autopilot is actually a bit like Scratch in a way. It's obviously a bit more sophisticated. It's not aimed at children, but has a lot of similarities. So Scratch is really nicely designed and really well thought through. And so we got a lot of inspiration from this when building the platform. So Scratch really has these 3 kind of principles. It's kind of event driven. So you have your actions based on some kind of event, like, when you click the flag or when you press the left arrow key or whatever. And then it's got these functions that can do something, like move your little car forward or turn it in this case. And then it has variables or some operators which can be inserted into your functions. So you can, as well as being static numbers, they can be determined by something else. And this is similar to some of the principles that we have in Autopilot. So our automation language has 3 kind of levels of hierarchy in a similar kind of way. And they're slightly different because obviously the use case is different. But so at the top in the automation cloud, kind of visual programming language, we have contexts. So context is really a group of instructions that relate to a particular scenario. So on the times tables Rockstars automation, the context would be play game. And then that contains all of the actions within that will do the playing of the game, a while loop essentially, and then clicking the various buttons in order to answer the questions. And the way contexts work is that they will match based on a particular scenario. And we use what's called a matcher. A matcher is just a function which looks for some kind of condition to become true. So normally on a web page, this is the existence of an element on a web page. So maybe you're checking for the title, you could check for the URL, you could check that the game is there, or whatever you like. And then once a context is matched, its actions simply execute in order. And so actions, pretty self-explanatory, they are each of the individual things that the bot does. So it could click, it can input text, it can do a while loop. It's kind of got all of the standard kind of programming language, flow control, if then else, and so on. And a lot more. There's probably about 60 or 70 built in. And then pipes. This is a really important concept, and I think this is what kind of differentiates us from a lot of the other automation software out there. So pipe is really a way of manipulating data, or indeed elements of a web page that are either passed into an action, so that can instruct it, say, which element to target, or coming back out of an action. So for example, if you want to scrape some data from a web page, you use a series of pipes in order to construct the data in a way that you need it to be returned. And so I'll show you in a demo how that works. And yeah, let's do that now. So obviously you can create some super sophisticated automations, but they might take hours or days to build. But I'll build a really simple one so you can see how it works. And what we're going to do is go to IMDb, and we'll output a list of the best rated hacking movies with over 1,000 votes, because less than 1,000 votes is kind of not that meaningful. So let's do that now. So just go to autopilot. Can you see that?
Oh. No, I think you're just sharing slides at the moment.
Stop the share, and I'll just start it again. Let's do that. Oh, I see. Oh, wow. There we go. Is that working?
Perfect.
You can see one beside the other.
Yep.
I'm used to Google Hangouts rather than Zoom. Right, so this is the kind of starting point. So we have a blank script. And this is autopilot here. So we start off with one context, which is called main. So main is the entry point for your automation, and it's where it always starts when you run it locally or when you run it within the automation cloud via an API or however else you want to trigger it. So the first thing that we would normally do if we're automating a website is navigate to a web page. So when you click on this little button here, plus, it gives you a menu, and you can see all of the different actions that you've got. And so they're all arranged in kind of categories like this, or you can search. And these are the kind of main ones, and then these are some plugins and things. So let's navigate. And so that creates this navigate action. And then the action detail is shown here, and all actions work in the same way. So you need to then define the pipeline, which either provides the input or the output data. So navigate needs a string. So let's just do a constant for now. But this could come from some input variable or some way that you call the API. So just go here, and then you can execute it. And cool thing is you can kind of program in real time with this. So you execute as you go along to make sure everything works, and you can kind of step through your automation as you go. And so first thing we need to do is really to, if you're structuring it correctly, you create a context for each page. So we'll just create one for the home page, and then you need to make a matcher. So the matcher basically is what triggers that context to start executing. And I'll just pick the search bar because that's always at the top of the home page. And so what this does is it automatically adds in the pipes and creates the Boolean condition in order to trigger the matcher or not. And so this, because I clicked on that element, it created this DOM query one pipe. And those of you who are front-end developers might be familiar. This is same as query selector in JavaScript. And so that you pass in a CSS query, and then it returns an element, which you can see there. And so we're checking that it's visible. And if it's true, then this context will start executing. And so then I will run through the actions in order to complete the automation. So let's make this dynamic. So I'll add some input data, and I can show you afterwards how this is used on the automation cloud itself, so you can change it. So let's just add a search query. I think I said find hacking movies, and then let's do min votes 1,000. And so that's the parameters that we'll use in order to find the results. So first thing, we can add an action to input the search query. So again, you just click on the element that you want to interact with. So this is a kind of little helper. You can actually define the element in any number of ways, but the standard way it normally is you'll define it by the CSS query. And so that gets the input that we're going to interact with. Now we need to complete it's a tuple to provide the string of data that the input is going to type in. So we want to get it from the input data that we've created up there. So we have a pipe which is called get input, and then that allows you to select your input data. So that's given us the whole object, which you can see there, but we just want that query string. So get path allows us to get the path. And so now that will input that string hacking into that input box. So there you go, it's done it. So we can label it. And now we want to click the search button. It will perform the search. Right, there we go. So now it's gone to the next page. So because it's a new page, we should define a new context. We can call it, and then add a matcher. You can do it on results for. So that defaults to results for hacking, but because we want to make it dynamic, we can remove that so that it can match for all sorts of queries, whatever we type in. And actually, I want to click on this link here because I want to click the hacking keyword. So let's find it. So let's click there. And problem is, it's impossible to find a unique selector for that particular link. You know, there's no unique CSS selector that will find that. So we have to kind of think of another way to get it. And we can't really filter on hacking because that's used in a number of different places, and it's kind of all. It's also dynamic. So the way to find this element here reliably, no matter what it says, is actually, first of all, I'll change that to a query all so it can have multiple results. I know that it will always be below this keyword section here. So if I find that, and then if I filter by that text to make sure I always get that one instead of those ones there. So I can do filter, get the text. What that will do is it will take those 4 initial elements, which are these ones, and it will filter it down to find the correct one. And then to find the element below, what I can do is just add a pipe to find the parent element. So you can see the pipes execute sequentially. So first of all, it finds all of the headings, then it filters to get the one that says keywords, and then parent moves up the DOM tree so that now we've definitely got the correct kind of parent element. And then within that, I want to click the first link. So I do the query all again, select a link, and that grabs the one that I want to click on. So click on and this will get me to the page that I'm looking for. So this is the page for all of the movies that have the keyword hacking. And so I will extract the data from here. So let's just create a new context with movies. Which shall I use? So you can kind of look around the page for something that should be unique. I think this detail sublist is probably the one. And you know, it tries to be clever. create some kind of matcher, which is a bit too long. Sort by popularity. So if it's got that in there, this is the page I want to match. And now I want to output all of the movies, basically the details on the movie. So maybe the title, the rating, the number of votes, the synopsis there, could do the image, for all the movies that have more than 1,000 votes. So let me show you how to do this. So this will be the last step of the demo. So I'll do an output action. So what that does is, that means when it's run via the API, it will return that data in JSON format. So let's call it movies. And what I want to do is return an array of all these. And then make sure that that gets the correct number of results. So you can see that's got 50 items. So that's obviously the right selector. So it's found all of the movie objects. And in order to build the output object, which is a JSON object, what I need to do is set the property paths of that JSON object and then use the various pipes to define where they grab the data from. So there's this pipe called setPath, and it allows you to write a JSON path, and then to have some subpipes which will do something, grab some data from the scope in order to manipulate it or get the text or whatever. So you can see here that now, because this is kind of a sub path within my pipeline, it's restricted me to the first result in the list, and I want to get the title there, and then I want to get the text. And so that worked. So you can see I've got all of the titles of all the different movies, and that's worked fine. And then you can copy it in order to save a bit of time. Copy, pipe, paste. Let's do the same for rating. And then, so this is a weird bug where it will go to some random one in the list. Get the rating there. There you go, that worked. Seems all fine. Just get it as a number. And let's do the number of votes. And this has got a ton of results, but what I can see is that's probably the right one. Name equals NV. And weirdly, there's 2 for some reason for some of these. Oh, that's because one is the gross earnings. I'm not interested in that. So let's limit it to just the first one. And that will always give me the first one. And there's the parsing is rather fussy. So that comma makes it parse the first number. So I can replace the comma in order to get the correct number. So you can see now, yeah, there you go, got the correct number of votes, and so on. And that's it. And now, if you remember, I wanted to only get ones with a minimum of 1,000 votes, or we can specify how many votes, because if it's got too little votes, then it's probably not really that good. So I can filter my list, and filter is another pipe that essentially runs a JavaScript filter method, and you need to specify what you're going to filter on. So I will get the number of votes and do a numeric compare with my input value. So I want to do greater than, so that number of votes is greater than the search.minvotes. You can see there. And what that's done is that's still 50. So maybe I need to be a bit more discerning. 10,000, see what happens. Yeah, there you go. So 42. So 8 of the movies have been filtered out. because they haven't got enough votes. And then maybe we want to sort it. So you just specify the path that you want to sort by rating, obviously. Let's see, is that the right way around? 4.5, no, it's the wrong way around. So that's obviously sorting in reverse order. So let's reverse it. And that should get the best movies about hacking, according to IMDb. And there you go. So that's what comes out. And so that's really how to build a basic automation. And obviously this is fairly trivial, but it will search IMDb for a query of your choosing, and it will then output the results. So let's change it to superhero and see what happens. So I'll reset the automation and run it again. So hopefully this works. Okay, it's just outputting. It's found an error. So rating, it says some are not found. I'll just make that optional. Votes, so those are not found. Make that optional too. So obviously some of them don't have a vote. So what I can do is, I can just put a little bit of JavaScript in here. I'm just being lazy really, but if they don't have any votes, I'll return 0 just to make it work. And that got me 42 movies, again, no coincidence. So you can see the best superhero movie of all time is officially Avatar, debatable, and so on. And so that's it really. That's the automation. That's how you build it. And then if you want to publish that and make that available as an API, we can go to Automation Cloud, and I've already set up here to load it, and you can upload it. And there you go. And now it's on there, and it will be ready to run. So now I'll show you how to execute that in the Automation Cloud, and hopefully this will work. So I think I have to stop my share here. And start a new share. Here it is. And this can now be run by sending an API call to our API with the ID there, and obviously authenticating. But we've got a little method that allows you to just run it within the Automation Cloud if you want to test it. So I think this is our parameters that we need to enter. Let's do robot. And 100. See what happens. So that creates the automation job, and it starts executing. And it looks like it's going to error. Let's just give it another go. So there's probably another little edge case where it couldn't find some field or something like that. Let's just give that one a try. This doesn't work, then I'll give up.
I'm not sure if I'm the only one that has a sincere feeling of dread at the idea that you're running JavaScript for people. arbitrarily visiting websites on other people's behalves and running JavaScript.
let me just show you one I made earlier. It did work. So here we go. Oh, the screenshot's been removed now, but this is the same thing. Search for hacking in votes 100. It's actually a different version of the script because I obviously rewritten it from scratch. But this gets all of the movies. This actually orders them by popularity. So there you go. You can see that's kind of how it works in the automation cloud. And obviously the REST API runs in a kind of similar manner as you might expect. And jobs are asynchronous, so you have to send a request to create a job, and then you poll it, see when it gets an output, and so on. And you can send it additional inputs, and you can build some pretty sophisticated things. Obviously, this is a super trivial example. So that's it. That's how you build a simple automation using the automation cloud. Let me quickly go back to my deck. So can you see that? Yep. So extensibility. So as well as building automations using the tools that are there, and as you've seen, there's a number of different sort of types of action you can perform on web pages and web apps and with the data and so on. You can also build your own functionality and make this available within the automation cloud, within Autopilot, as actions and pipes in order to do sort of unique and novel things and manipulate the data and so on. So an example of one of these that we did recently was a Google Translate extension. So for one of our hotel clients, they wanted to be able to output all of the data in a different language. So we have a JSON object that we've grabbed from the page, which might be all of the different types of room for the particular hotel. And now we want to translate it all to Spanish. So we call our Google Translate pipe, and it sort of magically translates it using the Google Translation API. And we've done tons of these different things for various use cases. But the cool thing is, once you build your extension, you can then start to use it within your automation. So I'll just show you a super basic one, which is related to the times tables thing again. So excuse me, I've just got to share the correct screen again. So here we go. So this is how you build an extension for the automation cloud. And in this case, what we want to do is have a very simple maths evaluation pipe. And the point is that this can calculate the result of a little mathematical expression on a web page, like 10 times 10. And as you can see here from the code, it just runs a regular expression match. It gets the first variable, the operator, the second variable, and then it just checks the operator and it performs the correct mathematical function and returns the result, and obviously throws an error if it can't work it out. And so I'll just show you how you use this in the web page. So apologies again, sharing my screen. Here we go. So I'll just open one that I made earlier. So this one here, I found a web page that's got some sums. And what I've done is I basically query all of the elements to get the text of the sums that I want to calculate. So you can see here. And then I'll just remove it for now. But basically, in order to calculate the result, I need to use my math evaluate pipe. So I just look in the list. There it is, math evaluate, and then that converts all of the sums into their answers. So that's kind of a really basic way to demonstrate how you can kind of build functionality into the platform. And obviously for lots of the more sophisticated automations, we use this quite a lot. So just jumping back to the presentation. And then all of the kind of existing pipes and actions are all within our GitHub repo. So our platform's open source, so anyone can check out how it works and sort of use these or modify them and fork them for their own use if they want to modify the functionality of the automation cloud. And then each of the automations that run in the automation cloud kind of dynamically loads these extensions in order to execute. So that was just some kind of silly or fun use cases. We call them citizen automator, which is really just using the automation cloud for your own purposes. It's not really about making money or doing business. It's just a kind of a little tool, really. And I'm sure all of us have various things like this that we mess around with in our own time. But the automation cloud is a business tool primarily, and these are a few examples of things that some of our customers use the platform for. So kind of where we came from really was building APIs for commerce out of websites. So automating websites, essentially turning the checkout flow into an API so that it can be consumed on other websites or other apps, aggregators, wherever our customers want the transaction to take place. And so we do a lot of this in hotel booking, flight booking, train booking, theatre booking, retail, universal checkout. We also do things like loan applications, insurance sign up, broadband sign up as well. So we've just launched in the US. We're automating AT&T sign up process for one of our customers, which is pretty cool. Scraping data, obviously a pretty common use case of the platform. We've got a few projects going where we're doing very large scale data extraction for things like hotel prices and flight routes and so on. Competitor monitoring is a pretty common use of automation. So making sure that your prices are competitive versus other companies in the same space. So some of our clients use it for that. And then orchestrating workflows. So this is really a new one, and it's a kind of new direction that we're adding. So the automation cloud isn't just for automating websites. It's really an orchestration tool. And if you can imagine that, as well as adding actions to do things on websites, you can just as well build workflows which will automate various APIs. And so we have a kind of prototype development which will be made into a proper feature soon, which allows the automation cloud to work with any open API or kind of Swagger spec API. So it kind of ingests the API documentation JSON, and then it builds all of the actions and pipes necessary in order to be able to allow you to automate your API in one of your automations. And this is probably most similar to something like Zapier. Obviously, it's a bit more of a technical tool, but we believe really, really powerful. And so some of our clients are just starting to look into using it for things like this. And then just a few names of some of the companies that are using the platform at the moment. So Google is obviously the most well known, and for Google we are doing hotel booking mainly. So you may have seen that some hotels can be booked directly on Google. You probably haven't been looking much recently, unfortunately, but hopefully it will kind of come back with a bang at some point once this pandemic is over. But we power some of these hotel booking APIs, and we're doing this by receiving API calls from Google, sending a bot to a particular hotel website, and committing all of the transaction data on behalf of the client, including the payment information. So that's obviously very important for this kind of use case. And we're PCI compliant, and we've come up with some clever ways of securely transmitting that data to websites. Yeah, and that's it really. So that's hopefully given you an overview of the automation cloud, hopefully given you a little bit of a taste for web automation and showed you what it's capable of. And we are one of a number of different ways that you can automate the web. probably a lot of people have heard of Puppeteer and Selenium, which are popular open source tools. But what we're about is really providing a full kind of platform and a suite of products and tools that will allow you to do that really easily without having to worry about provisioning all of your own bots and maintaining your automations and so on. So these are just a few links here. So automation.cloud is our website. I would encourage you to check it out. You can download Autopilot, which is our tool. You don't need to sign up. And you can use our platform for free on the kind of free tier, or you can use it in an open source capacity. And we've created a little website called Robot School that teaches you how to be an automator. So that's got a number of little tutorials similar to what I showed you today that will kind of teach you how to use Autopilot to do some of the basic things. And, you know, best of all, we're open source. So the majority of our platform, all of the automation framework, the tools are fully open source. And, you know, obviously free for anyone to do whatever they like with it. It's on a MIT license. So we'd encourage you to check it out and have a go. And that's it.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Marcus. That was fascinating. I'm hooked. I'm going to go and download it. We just have one more question that I haven't managed to interject yet, which was along the lines of from Simon on YouTube's. How do you avoid breaching other providers' terms and conditions of use of their website and data?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question. The answer is it depends. So I think there's kind of three ways that the platform is used. I would say in the majority of cases, it's with the cooperation of the website that we're automating. So either we will do an automation, or the company using the automation cloud will do an automation with the explicit sort of written permission of a particular hotel or whatever it is you're automating on that side. And so you kind of get around the TOS violations that way, because you've got permission from them. So that's the majority of cases. In some cases, it is honestly the opposite. And obviously I can't say which companies are doing that because this is kind of public and on YouTube, but we consider ourselves neutral in this whole relationship. You know, if they want to do that with our platform, then it's kind of at your own risk. It's not illegal, you know, because something is against the TOS, that doesn't make it illegal. It's not against the law. These are different things. So I suppose where we draw the line is it has to be legal what you're doing with the platform. But you know, the vast majority of cases where our platform is, we're fairly sure that it is with the explicit permission of the website that's being automated. And what we're really doing is just giving them an API that can be then ingested and used by various other platforms. And in a lot of cases, it's really about hotels or airlines that want to be able to sell their products, their tickets on other websites. And so we're doing service to them and they pay us.
Good answer. Good answer. Another one from Zoom chat this time, actually, from Simon. How long have you been developing it for, and how long did it take to make? I think they're the same question.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of third iteration of the platform, I suppose, yep. And hopefully the last one. But we started it 7 years ago, and you know, it was in a very different state back then. But it wasn't called the Automation Cloud. It was just the software, and I think that probably I would say this iteration is really about 3 or 4 years old now. It's pretty mature. It works pretty well. We started it initially as a sort of an in-house tool where we would use it in order to service our customers' needs. They'd basically say, I want an API for this hotel or this airline or whatever, and we would use the Automation Cloud internally in order to fulfill those requirements and build them these APIs, which are obviously powered by automation. But just recently, well, I mean, we've been planning it for about 1.5 years, but just recently we've opened up the platform completely so that anyone can use it for whatever they want. And we think that's really where the full potential is, because what we're trying to do is just make automation easy and accessible for anyone. It's aimed at developers, obviously, and technical people, but automation is actually pretty tricky to do if you start from scratch, because there's so many different components that you need to build, and you need to think about provisioning your bots and maintaining your scripts and fixing bugs and monitoring and scaling and all of that kind of fun stuff. So the Automation Cloud does it all for you, and our intention is really to be this platform that anyone can use to do whatever they want, automate, orchestrate anything on the web.
Awesome. Dom has actually shared a picture of you from Speaker's Corner back in Techstars Day in the Discord, and a picture of you smiling happily away. I'm not sure how many times you managed to pull a smile in the Techstars days. He also asked whether the clock still gives you the Techstars countdown clock still gives you numbers.
I've managed to wipe it from my memory. Thanks for reminding me.
Thank Dom. And then I think Rod's just made the comment that your son's teacher may be watching this.
Possibly.
I don't think we've got that much. Awesome. Any other questions on the YouTubes before we say adieu and go to our private Zoom sessions? That sounds ominous and weird. Just before we lose YouTubers, I'm going to give you 3. The ominous wait now. All right. Well, I'm sure Marcus is around. If any other questions want to be thrown his way, Inventure_ES on Twitter.
Oh, that's my Twitter. Yeah, it's kind of an old one. But I can be reached at marcus@automation.cloud or mg@ub.io, which is the company.
Awesome. Yeah, just a few thanks from the YouTubes. But yeah, thanks, YouTube. See you all later.
Yep.
See you in February. Right, oh, actually, no, see you next Wednesday. There's Dom. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Hi, Dom.
Bye, YouTube.